Have you ever noticed that some of the loudest battles in your life never make a sound? No one sees them. No one hears them. Yet they steal your joy, your confidence, your sleep, and sometimes even your faith. You wake up exhausted even after a full night's rest. You pray, but your thoughts keep racing. You open the Bible, but your mind is somewhere else. You worship, yet deep inside you feel anxious. Here's the question most people never ask. What if the greatest spiritual battle isn't happening around you, but inside your mind? The enemy doesn't always begin by attacking your body. He doesn't always begin by attacking your family. Many times, he starts with one thought, one lie, one fear, one comparison, one tiny seed of doubt. And if that thought is left unchallenged, it quietly grows, like a weed in a beautiful garden. At first, you hardly notice it. Then one day, it has covered everything. That's why the Bible places such a strong emphasis on the mind. Not because your thoughts are small, but because your thoughts shape your life. Every action begins as a thought. Every habit begins as a thought. Every decision begins as a thought. Protect your thoughts, and you begin protecting your future. Imagine owning a beautiful house. The walls are strong. The roof is perfect. The windows sparkle. But every night you leave the front door wide open. Would you be surprised if unwanted visitors walked in? Of course not. Yet many believers do exactly this with their minds. They are careful about what they eat, careful about how they dress, careful about their finances, but completely careless about what enters their minds. Hour after hour, negative news, constant comparison, fear, anger, bitterness, endless scrolling, voices that pull them farther away from God instead of closer to Him. Then they wonder, why have I lost my peace? Peace cannot remain where your mind is constantly feeding on fear. The Bible teaches that peace is not merely the absence of problems, it is the presence of God's truth ruling your thoughts. This is why guarding your mind is not optional, it is spiritual wisdom. Think of your mind as a garden. If you never remove weeds, they will grow naturally, but flowers require intention. Faith is like that. Hope is like that. Gratitude is like that. They grow where they are nurtured. Every day, your heart asks one question: what are you feeding me today? If your answer is fear, fear grows. If your answer is bitterness, bitterness grows. If your answer is God's promises, faith begins to grow stronger than fear. That is why renewing the mind is not a one-time event. It is a daily decision. Some mornings, you wake up feeling confident. Other mornings you don't. But God's truth does not change with your emotions. Feelings are real, but they are not always reliable. Truth must lead, feelings must follow. Many people spend years praying for God to change their circumstances, but perhaps the first miracle God wants to perform is inside their thinking. Imagine two people walking through the same storm. One is filled with panic, the other is filled with peace. The storm is identical. The difference is not outside, the difference is within. The mind has become anchored in God's promises. That kind of peace cannot be bought. It cannot be manufactured. It is cultivated, one faithful choice at a time. So today, ask yourself honestly, what thoughts have I welcomed that God never invited? What voices have I trusted more than His word? What fears have I repeated until they began to sound like truth? Every unhealthy thought loses its power when it is exposed to God's truth. And every day you choose truth over fear. You take one more step toward the peace God has always wanted for you. Imagine carrying your phone everywhere, but never charging it. At first, everything seems normal. The battery drops from 100% to 80 to 60 to 30. You hardly notice. Then suddenly, the screen goes black. Most people think the phone died in a single moment, but it didn't. It was losing power long before anyone noticed. Your spiritual life can be the same. Peace is rarely stolen all at once. It disappears little by little. One anxious thought, one unforgiven offense, one habit that slowly replaces time with God, one compromise that seems too small to matter. The enemy understands something many people forget. He doesn't always need to make you reject God. Sometimes he only needs to keep you distracted from Him. A distracted heart slowly becomes a distant heart. That is why silence can be so powerful. Not the silence of loneliness, but the silence where you intentionally stop, turn away from the noise, and make room for God's voice. Think about your average day. Notifications, messages, news, videos, opinions, arguments, endless information. Your mind is constantly receiving. But how often is it resting? The world tells you to consume more. God invites you to be still. Stillness is not weakness. It is where clarity begins. Many of the decisions we regret were made in emotional noise. Many of the best decisions are made in quiet moments with God. A peaceful mind is not created by controlling everything around you. It is created by surrendering everything within you. That surrender is not passive. It is an act of trust. You are saying, God, I don't understand everything, but I trust your wisdom more than my fear. That changes the atmosphere of your heart, because fear keeps asking, what if everything goes wrong? Faith quietly answers, what if God is already working in ways I cannot see? There is another trap many people fall into: comparison. Comparison steals gratitude. It convinces you that someone else's life is always better. Someone else's family, someone else's career, someone else's ministry, someone else's blessing. But comparison blinds you to what God is doing in your own life. You cannot fully celebrate God's gifts while constantly measuring them against someone else's story. God has never asked you to become another person. He calls you to faithfully live the purpose He designed specifically for you. Every person has a different journey, different timing, different assignments, different lessons. When you stop comparing, you create room for contentment, and contentment creates room for peace. Tonight, before you go to sleep, ask yourself one simple question. What thought today brought me closer to God? And what thought pulled me away from Him? That one question, asked consistently, can begin changing your spiritual life. Because transformation often starts not with one dramatic moment, but with one honest decision, one thought surrendered, one fear released, one prayer whispered in faith. And over time, those small daily choices become a strong, peaceful mind that remains steady, even when life is not.